Discover the incredible journey of a Babylonian priest, 5 life-changing truths exposed. Samuel sat at his worn desk, the light from the window casting shadows across a stack of ungraded papers. The sun was setting over rural Texas, a quiet beauty that often masked the struggle beneath the surface. He watched the clouds gathering, dark and heavy, and felt an echo of the burden he carried from his family's financial struggles. Each bill unpaid felt like a storm cloud of its own, looming just as ominously. But amidst this chaos, one thing remained bright: his daughter, Mia. Mia had aspirations bigger than her small town. She talked about college with bright eyes and a hopeful smile. Samuel could see it all too clearly. She was determined to break the cycle of poverty that had gripped their family for generations. She was the inspiration he needed to keep pushing through the challenges that faced him as a community college professor. The challenges were more than just his financial worries, though. Gossip floated through the town like the wind stirring the dust. Neighbors still whispered behind closed doors about where he had come from. Samuel was a high school dropout turned teacher, a transformation that earned both admiration and judgment in equal measure. No matter how many lives he touched, the unspoken prejudices clung to him like a shadow. As the storm approached, Samuel received a glimmer of hope. A funding opportunity for an innovative educational program crossed his desk. It was a chance to truly uplift his students, to pave a path for them away from the economic struggles that bound their families. His heart raced with the thought, but then the weight of his situation crashed down again. The bills stacked high like the gathering storm clouds outside. He could chase this dream and potentially change lives, or he could secure his family's fragile stability. Days passed leading to the storm, and Samuel fought an internal battle. Then, to complicate matters, his old rival returned to town. Kyle had always been the golden boy, the one who never struggled. As Kyle flaunted his accomplishments, the old feelings of insecurity surged within Samuel, forcing him to confront the idea of worthiness in his role as an educator. With every encounter that stirred resentment, Samuel's doubts grew, but beneath the surface of tension, Mia's unwavering belief in her father flickered like a candle in the dark. "You can do this, Dad," she would say, holding his hand tightly in moments of fear. Her faith stoked the fire of hope in Samuel's heart, a reminder that his journey wasn't just his own but part of something greater. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the first drops of rain fell, the town departed from whispers to action. Neighbors gathered, united by the storm. They shared food, offered shelter, and opened their hearts. It felt magical, like a moment of rebirth wrapped in grief. Samuel stood at the center, an unexpected leader, urging others to see the strength within themselves, to reclaim their stories from the storm's chaos. Generosity breathed life into the community, and for the first time, flaws faded into the background, but as the skies cleared, lurking beneath the surface were unresolved conflicts. A town hall meeting loomed ahead, the kind that could reshape the community. Would Samuel stand tall, or would he fold against the pressure? Would he risk everything for the sake of hope and change? As he stared into the crowd, the anticipation crackled like a wire ready to snap. The room buzzed with tension, eyes fixed on him. All of their hopes and fears seemed to hinge on what he would say next. Could one man's dream truly transform a community marked by division? With a shaky breath, Samuel prepared to answer a question hung heavy in the air, waiting to unfold. Samuel felt his heart racing as he stood before the crowd in the town hall. Faces he recognized, some familiar and others strangers, awaited his words like a collective breath held in anticipation. The flickering lights overhead caught the beads of sweat forming on his brow, but he couldn't afford to show uncertainty now. This was his moment, and he needed to harness every ounce of courage he had. "Thank you all for being here," he began, his voice steady despite the nerves coiling tightly in his stomach. Murmurs rippled through the crowd, a mixture of support and skepticism. He took a moment, scanning the faces that had previously felt so distant. There was Mrs. Jenkins, a widow who struggled to keep her home, and the Hernandez family, recently displaced after the storms. Samuel pushed through the weight of doubt. This was for them. "I know we face hardship together," he continued, finding strength in the sincerity behind his words. "But I believe we can change our circumstances. Education can be our ladder out of poverty. It's not just a tool, it's the key to a brighter future." The murmurs quieted, eyes widening with curiosity. He mentioned the funding opportunity, detailing a vision for a community program that would not only foster educational growth but also provide resources to the entire town. Samuel shared stories of students who had walked through his doors, stifled by despair yet showing glimmers of potential. He painted a picture of a future where dreams weren't limited by hometown walls but soared beyond them. As he spoke, Samuel noticed Mia in the back of the room, her face glowing with pride, nodding in encouragement. Each word he released felt like a light breaking through the darkness. But with every passing moment, a darker reality gnawed at him, the specter of Kyle looming in the corner, arms crossed and a skeptical expression plastered on his face. It was a reminder of the judgment that followed him, of the questioning looks that seemed to scream inadequacy. Just then, Kyle stood up. "Why should we believe a dropout can lead us? What do you know about success?" His voice rang out, sharp as a whip. Gasps echoed from the audience, and Samuel's heart dropped. The shadows that had been lurking returned tenfold, gnawing at his confidence. A wave of indignation surged through him. This wasn't just about him anymore, it was about embarrassing a struggle shared by many. Samuel's thoughts raced. Was he just a dropout? Or was he proof that change was not born from privilege but from passion and perseverance? He took a deep breath, grounding himself in the mission that brought him here. "I've faced those doubts myself," Samuel replied, his voice firmer now. "But what I know is that failure doesn't define us. It's what we do in the face of adversity that shapes our future. I've been in your shoes, felt desperation, and yet here I stand because I believed change was possible. And together, we can achieve something greater." The crowd responded with silence at first, but slowly, heads began to nod, and murmurs turning into whispers of agreement took root. He could feel a spark igniting within the room. Was it hope? A collective will? As he closed his speech, gratitude swelled within him. He had taken a step toward unveiling the truth that had long held them captive. With the challenge issued, he prepared to face their questions, eager to navigate the fallout of his words. But was the courage he had summoned enough to steer the tide of public opinion in his favor? With the weight of the past pressing at his shoulders and the future uncertain, he braced himself. The moment of decision loomed ahead. Would he inspire a movement or be met with resistance? The air crackled with energy, and Samuel felt a shift, a pivot in motion toward something momentous. Would he rise to the occasion, or would he falter in the face of judgment? As he prepared for the onslaught of questions, anticipation danced in the air, thick with possibility. A hush fell over the crowd, the weight of Samuel's words hanging in the air like a fragile promise. He could see the tension in their faces, could almost taste the mixture of skepticism and hope swirling around. Some people shifted in their seats, looking between him and Kyle, caught in the tug-of-war between doubt and faith. This was the moment of truth. He waited for the first question, heart pounding in his chest like a drumbeat of uncertainty. And then Mrs. Jenkins lifted her hand. "Samuel," she said, her voice soft but strong, "every year we hear promises that never come to pass. How can we really believe this will work?" A flicker of despair threatened to grasp him, but he maintained his composure. "Mrs. Jenkins, I understand your pain. We've been let down before. But this isn't just my vision, it's ours. With every effort we make, we're breathing life into something new. Imagine the resources, the support, the unity we could foster. It starts here and now." As he spoke, he saw her uncertainty begin to wane, replaced slowly by something softer. Hope. Next, Kyle's voice cut through the air again, sharper. And if it fails? What then? Another empty promise? Samuel closed his eyes for a brief moment, feeling the weight of that question. He couldn't deny the reality of failure, nor the risk involved. But he also felt the fire inside him ignite anew. If we don't try, we've already failed. I'm not asking for blind faith, I'm asking for partnership. Let us commit to this. If it stumbles, we will learn. And if it thrives, we will grow together. A murmur rippled through the crowd as Samuel's words began to take root. It was evident now the shift was in motion, minds were being swayed. A voice spoke from the crowd, a young man named Tom, a local father who had once been a bright student but had faltered on the way. What if there are no resources? What if we don't get that funding? How can we believe it will change anything? His brow furrowed, revealing the fears that echoed deep within the hearts of many. Samuel locked eyes with him, feeling a deep-seated kinship. Then we create our own resources, Tom. We reach out to each other. We organize, collaborate, and share what we have. Look at every story of change, they began with a spark of determination, with people like us, refusing to settle for the status quo. Change starts when we believe in ourselves. With that, the whispers turned almost palpable. People were leaning in, listening. This was not just about Samuel anymore, it was about their collective struggle, one they all shared. They were beginning to see through unity, they could forge a path. Mia stepped forward, her voice breaking the weighty silence. I believe in this. I've seen the change in Samuel and how he inspires every student. What if we each gave just a little of our time or resources? Imagine what could blossom. Her eyes glistened with unshed tears, reflective of the hope slowly unfurling among them. As a chorus of silent agreements filled the room, Samuel felt the warmth of renewed energy surrounding him. It was a slow wave at first, but soon he could sense a rising tide. People were thinking, dreaming, and finally, believing, but even as the crowd shifted, a nagging worry tugged at Samuel. Were they truly ready to embrace this challenge? Would they follow through when the time came to put hard work into a vision that could easily falter? The questions loomed, as Robert, a longtime skeptic, voiced one final concern. What if we don't have what it takes to sustain this? What if it all falls apart? With each voice echoing doubt, Samuel's heart raced with the weight of their expectations. He wanted to tell them it would be okay, but deep down, he knew, like any real journey, they would have to weather storms and fight to keep their dream alive. As the air thickened with uncertainty, he realized this was only the beginning. There were struggles ahead, hurdles to leap. Yet, in that fiery room filled with flickering hope, a collective will had begun to form. With a pulse of determination, he took a deep breath and faced them. All, ready to justify their trust. Together, we can find our strength, he declared. But it will take courage, commitment, and an unyielding belief in ourselves. Are you with me? The question hung in the air, feeling both daunting and exhilarating. Responses were coming fast, whispers of agreement swirling again. But just as anticipation filled the air, a sudden bang echoed from the back of the room, making everyone jump. The door swung open, and in walked an unexpected figure, a government official, clipboard in hand, and a look of undeniable seriousness. What is going on here? He asked, eyeing the crowd. Samuel's heart sank. Had they been discovered? What would this mean for their ambitions? The room fell silent, all eyes shifting between Samuel and the newcomer. Tension thickened like a fog. Was this the beginning of their chance or the end of their hope? Samuel's heart raced, matching the chaos of thoughts swirling in his mind. He could feel the eyes of the crowd, their expressions a mix of confusion and dread. The government official stood there, clipboard in hand, he seemed to embody every fear they had just voiced. Would he crush the fragile hope they had built together? Excuse me, sir, Samuel found his voice, steadying himself against the weight of the moment. "We're discussing a community initiative, something that could help us all." The official's brow furrowed. "A community initiative? Funny how that sounds like a town meeting. But I'm here to ensure that no unlawful gatherings are taking place." He scanned the room, his gaze hard and unforgiving. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Samuel could sense the shift in energy, the weight of anticipation pivoting toward anxiety. He had barely gathered their hopes, and now the sense of danger settled in. Could he really navigate this? "Sir," Mia interjected, her voice rising above the uncertainty. "We're not doing anything wrong. We're just trying to make things better for our kids, for the community." The official raised an eyebrow, a hint of intrigue breaking through his stern facade as he studied her. Samuel felt a flicker of hope sparking from her courage. "What are the details of this initiative?" he asked, though his tone still bore the weight of skepticism. With a quick glance at Mia and Kyle, Samuel decided to take a leap of faith. "We want to create programs that help our youth engage with education, skills training, community service, and ultimately create a supportive network that lifts us all up. We believe everyone has something to contribute, and together we can change the narrative of this town." The official's pen lifted, hovering above the clipboard, and for a moment the room held its breath. Samuel watched as doubt slowly morphed into contemplation on the man's face. But before he could take another breath, Kyle, ever the skeptic, leaned forward, his voice low but harsh. "And what makes you think you can count on anyone around here? Haven't we learned that promises without actions lead to empty dreams?" Samuel turned back to the audience, his heart pounding but emboldened. "That's why we're here now, to take action, to commit together. But we need support. Not just funds, but community interest, and I mean real interest." He met the government official's gaze, sensing the shift had begun to tip in their favor. "We want this to be a partnership, not just a program. And we can show the impact through our united effort." The official took a moment, clearly weighing his options. The atmosphere was thick with anxiety, each person holding their breath, waiting for a verdict that could shape their future. "Okay," he finally said, his voice steady but cautious. "Let me hear more about your plans. If what you're proposing can be sustainable and viable, maybe we can find a way to support it, but you need to show me you're serious." The crowd inhaled collectively, a wave of relief washing over them. Samuel felt the tension break, and for the first time in weeks, he saw hope sparkling in the eyes around him. They weren't just words anymore, they were an opportunity, but just as encouragement filled Samuel's heart, he heard the soft echo of uncertainty from Tom. "But what if this is just another empty promise? What can we do to ensure it doesn't fall apart?" Samuel felt the weight of that question again, but he knew they had to address it head-on. "We work. We hold each other accountable. We set goals, share our progress, and celebrate our wins." A new resolve seemed to coat the room as conversation began to build, an undercurrent of determination swirling back up. Yet, as he spoke, Samuel sensed a deeper fear lingering beneath their excitement. They craved security, but how could he promise that? As he scanned the crowd, their faces lit up with renewed hope, but his heart ached with unacknowledged worries. This moment was not an end, but a rough beginning to a long journey. The door swung open, the gust of wind stirring the atmosphere and sending a chill through the room. Samuel turned to see a figure lingering just outside the entrance, an old friend, a local journalist, who had been silent until now. "Samuel," she called, stepping inside and locking eyes with him. "I just heard something big is happening. We need to talk. There are forces working against you." Fear fluttered in Samuel's chest. What did she know? What would this mean for their fledgling plan? The buzz of the crowd faded as he felt the gravity of her words settle around him, the path ahead darkening with uncertainty once more. Would they be able to safeguard their vision against threats lurking in the shadows? With hearts beating faster, they now faced a fresh wave of challenges. What lay ahead was uncertain, but one thing was clear: this was just the beginning of something vast and unpredictable. Would they stand together in the face of adversity? Or would they crumble under pressure? Samuel's pulse raced, each beat a reminder of the uncertainty swirling in his gut. The journalist's words seemed to wrap around him like a thick fog. He took a deep breath, trying to steady the whirlwind within. "What do you mean, forces working against us?" Her expression hardened, eyes narrowing with a seriousness that unnerved him. "I overheard some conversations, Samuel. There are people who don't want to see this community initiative succeed. Their interests lie elsewhere, and they'll stop at nothing to maintain control." The crowd's energy shifted again, confusion and fear emerging anew. Samuel could see the color drain from faces that had just begun to brighten with hope. "Wait, what kind of forces?" Mia's voice pierced the doubt in the air, a spark of defiance lighting her eyes. The journalist glanced back at the doorway, as if expecting every shadow to come alive. "Not just political. There are local businesses who depend on keeping things as they are. If you succeed, they might lose a lot. Money talks, and it seems like they don't want their grip loosened." Panic flickered in the room. Samuel felt the ground beneath him shift, his conviction wavering. "But we have to try. We can't let fear hold us back. If we truly believe this can change lives, then we have to move forward together." "Do we?" Kyle challenged, his brow furrowing deeply. The skepticism that had lingered in his voice now echoed louder than before. "What do we do if they come after us?" The questions bounced between them like a hot potato, weighing heavier with each passing second. "We share our story. We engage the community and let them see what we're trying to build," Samuel said, his voice rising over the din of apprehension. "Together, we have power. They can't silence an entire voice." The official stepped forward, pen hovering again, caught between their determination and the brewing tension. His conflicted gaze shifted from Samuel to the crowd, sensing the shift. "What you are proposing is noble, but it comes with risks. You have to think strategically. This isn't just about passion, it's about survival." Samuel's heart sank. Did they truly have what it would take? The faces of his neighbors, their hopes so real moments ago, brought a fierce burst of resolve. "If we stand strong with transparency, they can't undermine us. We'll demand accountability from each other and from those in power. We want to work in silence." Mia nodded, her voice unwavering. "Let us plan a town meeting. Let the community know what we're up against. Together, we'll rally them around this vision." Samuel felt hope begin to seep back in. "Yes. We can create flyers, build an online presence. We can amplify our voices. If we show them what we're capable of, they might think twice about opposing us." But doubt still clouded their faces, uncertainty mixing with courage. Samuel knew they needed a plan, but insecurities gnawed at him. How could they protect this fragile dream from those who thrived on control? Just then, someone spoke up from the back of the crowd. It was Sarah, the local teacher who had been quiet until now. "What if we link up with other community groups? There are others in similar situations who might be willing to fight alongside us." A wave of murmurs passed through the room, a thread of excitement weaving among them. Samuel felt his heart swell. They could join forces, strength in numbers was their best defense. That's it. We could create a coalition for change, willing to stand against those forces, whoever they may be. The crowd began to whisper and encourage one another, the earlier storm of fear slowly transforming into something more powerful: unity. Yet, even as they rallied, Samuel couldn't shake the feeling that lurking danger was watching them from the shadows. He glanced back at the journalist, who wore a knowing expression that sent a chill down his spine. "Just be careful," she cautioned softly, stepping closer. "Powerful people don't play fair." Samuel nodded, the weight of her warning vivid in his mind. Excitement ignited, but so did the fear that clawed at him about. What was to come? Did they have the strength to face those forces together? As he looked out at the faces that had begun to light up again, a thought settled in his mind. This battle, one way or another, was only just beginning. Okay, everyone. Let us put our plan into action. He exclaimed, feeling that flicker of determination feed his spirit. But in the back of his mind, storm clouds gathered. What would it take to keep their dreams safe? And what were the lengths those with power would go to stop them? The meeting buzzed with newfound energy, but Samuel couldn't shake the nagging unease. As everyone discussed strategies, his mind drifted. The journalist's warning danced like a shadow in his thoughts. Powerful forces could put an end to everything like a snuffed-out candle. Let us start drafting a flyer, shouted Kyle, pacing back and forth. We should let the whole community know what's at stake. Great idea, Samuel agreed, though the weight of responsibility felt heavier. But we need to make it clear that we're committed to change and justice. No half measures. With papers and pens spread across the community center's long table, the group began collaborating on designs and catchy phrases. Laughter punctuated their brainstorming sessions, but behind each smile lay the understanding of what they were fighting. The sun dipped lower, casting a warm glow that illuminated faces determined to stand firm. Let us also create a timeline, Mia suggested, her brow furrowed with concentration. We can highlight past successes and show the community a clear path forward. Samuel watched her passion ignite the group. It was captivating, the way they caught fire from each other's enthusiasm. Yet, in the back of his mind, he couldn't stop picturing the dark silhouette standing against them. Losing control would mean losing so much years of struggle, hopes pinned to a brighter future. Okay, we'll need to set a date for that town meeting, he said, drawing in a breath. Let us aim for next Friday. We give ourselves a week to prepare and gather support. Cheers erupted around the table, but Samuel's stomach was a knot of apprehension. Friday was only a week away, and what if their enemies started stirring? What if they attacked before the community even had the chance to rally behind them? As the hours passed, he noticed a shift in people's demeanor. The enthusiasm ebbed and flowed with conversation, but there remained an underlying anxiety. Samuel caught Kyle's gaze from across the room. What are you thinking? Just, what if we're making a mistake? Kyle's voice was barely a whisper, but it reverberated around them. What if we put everyone in danger? Samuel felt the air tingle with tension. It was a valid question. Their lives, their safety, everything could be at stake. But what was the alternative? Standing still? Forgetting the community's dreams? Listen, Samuel began, pulling the group's focus onto him. I can't promise there won't be risks, but we owe it to ourselves and our future to try. To stay silent is to let them win. The group nodded, the fear still coiled in their minds but punctuated with a firm resolve. Then someone murmured, what if we had a backup plan? A backup plan? Samuel echoed. What do you mean? What if we set up a secure way for people to share their stories anonymously? Suggested Sarah. That way, even if some folks are scared to speak out, they can still contribute. Excitement rippled through the group again. A backup in the event of fallout. It was a smart idea. That could work, Samuel said, feeling a spark of relief. If we unite every voice, even the quietest ones will be stronger. As night settled in, they drafted plans and poured out hope, but every word was laced with the heavy reminder of the risks they faced. Samuel reminded himself that hope often dwelled in the hardest places and grew where it seemed least possible. When they finally packed up, their eyes shone with determination. Everyone hugged, some lingering longer than others as if clinging to that connection, ensuring the support was real. Before heading out into the cool night air, Samuel turned to the group, feeling the pulse of purpose race through him. Remember, next Friday is just a start. We keep fighting, whatever comes. Together. As they dispersed, Samuel found himself lingering. The shadows whispered around him, and he sensed the storm was coming. What if their backup plan wasn't enough? And what if they were already a target, marked by the forces lurking in the dark? His heart raced, knowing that real battles begin without notice. Would they be prepared when the time came? The air was thick with uncertainty as Samuel walked home, the chill of the night wrapping around him like a heavy cloak. Streetlights flickered overhead, casting dim pools of light on the cracked pavement. Each step felt heavier, the weight of their mission pressing down on him with relentless force. He couldn't shake the feeling that they were standing on the edge of something vast and terrifying. His thoughts spiraled as he replayed the meeting in his head. The laughter, the ideas, the determination, yet it all felt so fragile. Did they truly understand what they were up against? As his shoes crunched against fallen leaves, he imagined the dark silhouettes again, lurking in the shadows. When Samuel finally reached his front porch, he paused, glancing back at the street. What if tonight was the last time he'd see his neighborhood like this? The familiar sounds of laughter, children playing, you could almost breathe in the hope. But deep down, he wondered if that hope was about to be extinguished. Inside, his home was quiet. He flipped on a few lights, the glow illuminating the walls adorned with family photos. Faces smiled back at him, a stark reminder of what he was fighting for. He sank into a worn-out chair, running a hand through his hair as he stared at the scattered papers filled with plans and notes. The town meeting seemed so distant now, yet so close. He pulled out his phone, scrolling through messages from the group. Words of encouragement filled the screen, but Samuel could feel the unseen weight bearing down on all of them. They were all in this together, yet the isolation of leadership felt suffocating. As the night wore on, Samuel poured himself a glass of water, trying to calm the unrest inside him. He couldn't afford to let fear take root. They had hoped for change, believed in their power. He had to remember that. With a deep breath, he grabbed a pen and began scribbling thoughts on a fresh sheet of paper. "What are you doing?" A voice cut through the quiet. He jumped, startled. "Mia?" She smiled from the doorway, the light from the hallway spilling behind her. "Couldn't sleep. Thought I'd check in." Samuel exhaled, relief washing over him. "Just thinking about everything that's coming." Mia stepped in, crossing her arms. "You're worried, aren't you?" "Of course I am," he admitted, gaze dropping. "What if we're not ready? What if they don't listen? Or worse, what if they retaliate?" Mia moved closer, her expression softening. "We took the first step tonight," she said, laying a hand on his shoulder. "That means something." He looked up, her assuredness grounding him. "But what if that step leads to a cliff?" "Then we bring a safety net," she replied boldly. "We can't control everything, but we can control how we respond. Remember, we're not alone. Each voice counts." Samuel felt the tension in his chest ease just slightly. He wanted to believe her words. "You're right. It's just fear can be overwhelming." Suddenly, the shrill ring of his phone sliced through the moment. Both looked at each other, startled. Samuel grabbed the device, glancing at the screen. An unknown number. "Should I answer?" Mia shrugged, a flicker of worry crossing her face. "Could be important." With a hesitant finger, Samuel swiped to answer. "Hello?" "Samuel, it's me," a shaky voice responded. It was Kyle. "You need to come back to the center. There's something you need to see." His heart dropped. "What is it?" "Just come quickly, please." Before he could ask anything else, the line went dead. "Samuel, what is going on?" Mia asked, worry etched in her features. He felt a surge of urgency. "I don't know, but we need to go now." As they rushed out the door, the night air hit him with a sharp chill, sending a shiver down his spine. Hurrying down the street, Samuel couldn't shake the feeling they were racing towards a turning point. What awaited them at the center? And would it change everything they thought they knew? The streets were eerily quiet as Samuel and Mia hurried towards the community center. The crunch of gravel beneath their feet echoed in the stillness, amplifying the anxiety bubbling in his stomach. Samuel glanced at Mia, whose brow was furrowed with concern. He wished he could offer her some comfort, but the weight of uncertainty pressed heavily on his mind. As they approached the center, the fluorescent lights hummed to life, casting an unsteady glow over the entrance. Samuel's pulse quickened with each step. Kyle's voice on the phone had been frantic. What could possibly be so urgent that it couldn't wait until morning? "Mia, are you ready for whatever we might find?" he asked, trying to sound more confident than he felt. She nodded, her brown eyes reflecting determination. "We can handle it together. Just remember that." When they reached the door, Samuel pushed it open, the squeak of the hinges slicing through the quiet. The interior was dim but filled with traces of activity: a table piled with papers, chairs hastily pushed aside. Kyle was pacing the floor, his phone pressed to his ear. He looked up as they entered, his face pale and tense. "Thank goodness you're here," he exclaimed, relief washing over his features. He hung up the phone and stepped forward. "You won't believe what I found." "What is it?" Samuel asked, breathless. "You sounded panicked." Kyle beckoned them to follow him toward the back of the center. "It's worse than we thought. I intercepted some messages. They've been planning something big. Something that could change everything for us." Samuel's heart sank, fear mingling with disbelief. "What do you mean? What have they planned?" Kyle retrieved a sheaf of papers from a nearby desk and held them up. "I can't read all of it yet, but there are names and dates. They're organizing an event, a rally to oppose our plans. If they gather enough support, we'll be outnumbered." Mia gasped, her eyes wide. "We have to counter it. We need our voices to be heard." Samuel felt a rush of urgency. "How long do we have?" "Not long. They're meeting tomorrow night to finalize their strategy," Kyle replied, pacing again. "We have to mobilize. Gather as many people as we can, spread awareness. What if they get violent?" Mia's voice wavered. "We can't think like that," Samuel interjected. "We have to remain united and calm. But first, we need a plan, something solid to show them our community stands together for what's right." The three of them huddled around the table, the remnants of their earlier optimism suffocating under the weight of the challenge ahead. Samuel started jotting down ideas, yet deep down, dread clawed at him. How could they fight against something that seemed so overwhelming? As they brainstormed, the tension in the room felt palpable. Every idea shared was both a flicker of hope and a reminder of the risk they were taking. Just then, Mia looked up with sharp focus. "What if we use social media? We can spread the word quickly. Have people share our story, what we stand for." Samuel nodded, encouraged by her enthusiasm. "And we can create flyers, maybe even a speech to rally people." Kyle perked up, a glimmer of hope returning to his gaze. "We could even film something. The message will resonate more if they can see our passion." As the night wore on, adrenaline replaced doubt. They made lists of people to reach out to, plans of action to execute. Samuel felt a flicker of courage igniting a fire that hadn't burned brightly since that fateful meeting. But it wasn't just the fear of losing their mission that gnawed at him, it was something deeper. What if they truly fell short, despite their best efforts? "We can make a difference," Kyle reminded them, breaking through Samuel's thoughts. "Tomorrow is our chance to show our strength. What if we risk too much?" Samuel murmured, a knot tightening in his stomach. That question lingered in the air. The door creaked open suddenly, letting in a breeze that sent chills racing down their spines. Someone whispered outside, a voice they couldn't quite recognize. "They're here." Hearts racing, Samuel, Mia, and Kyle exchanged wide eyes. What had they stepped into without realizing? Tomorrow was going to test everything they believed. Would their voices be enough to keep the darkness at bay? Would they find the strength in each other to confront the looming storm? With the stakes rising, the true battle was about to unfold. Samuel's heart pounded in his chest as the whisper stung the air like a forgotten chill. The unease wrapped around them, tightening like a vice. He turned toward the door, half expecting to see a shadow scale the threshold. Instead, only silence met him, as if the world was holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. Mia, Kyle, we need to. He stopped mid-sentence, feeling the weight of their shared anxiety. No one wanted to say it out loud, but the presence outside felt ominous. What do we do? Mia whispered, her voice trembling. Kyle took a careful step toward the door and pressed his ear against it. I can't hear anything. Maybe it was just the wind? His attempt at reassurance fell flat, leaving a knot of dread in their stomachs. Samuel broke the tension and said, No, we can't just stand here. We have to decide if we're going to face whatever's out there. A flicker of determination sparked in Mia's eyes. If we don't, we'll never know. With a deep breath, Samuel turned the handle, resolving to let courage guide them. He pushed the door open, the creak filling the air with a cautious echo, revealing nothing more than the empty street and the distant sounds of the night. The street lamps flickered, glinting eerily like distant stars watching over them. Maybe it was just a figment of our imagination? Mia said, exhaling a breath she didn't realize she was holding. Or maybe a warning, Kyle countered, scanning their surroundings. I don't like this. Suddenly, Samuel felt a shift in the atmosphere. Guys, we need to move. Let's get back inside and finalize our plan for tomorrow. We can't let fear paralyze us. As they retreated into the warmth of the center, the sense of urgency resurfaced. They huddled around the table again, the flickering lights accentuating their anxious faces. Okay, Samuel said, pushing aside his own fear. What's our first step? We have our social media idea, but we need someone to lead it. I can take charge of that, Mia said, her voice firm. I already have a network of friends who could help spread the word. It's time to rally our community. And I'll organize the flyers, Kyle added, his passion reignited. We should get them out tonight while the idea is fresh in everyone's mind. The collaboration energized the room, infusing them with an unspoken hope. But in the back of Samuel's mind, doubt still lurked. How effective would their voices be when countered by the rising tide against them? As they brainstormed ways to unify everyone, Samuel couldn't shake the feeling that the shadows from outside hadn't just disappeared. They were gathering. He glanced out the window, squinting against the bright lights. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary. Yet, it was hard to ignore that creeping feeling of being watched. The clock ticked closer to midnight. Samuel leaned back, weary but resolved. No matter what happens tomorrow, we fight for what we believe in. Together. We can't let them silence us. What if we fail? A voice quivered from the back of his mind. But before he could entertain that thought any longer, the door swung open again, this time forcefully enough to knock against the wall. The three of them jumped, adrenaline surging through their veins. Standing in the doorway was a figure draped in shadows, a silhouette that barely distinguished itself in the harsh fluorescent light. I heard what you were planning, the voice called out, low and smooth, slicing through the air like a knife. Samuel's breath caught in his throat. Who are you? The figure stepped forward, revealing a face he recognized from the local resistance, a burning intensity in their eyes. We need to talk. If you're going to make a stand, you have to know the truth about what's coming with that. The room seemed to shrink around him, and Samuel felt the world outside their bubble shifting beneath them. What truth could be so monumental that it would change everything? His heart raced. They weren't just fighting for their voices anymore, they were on the brink of facing something much larger than themselves. Would they be ready for what lay ahead? Samuel stood at the front of the community center, the pounding of his heart nearly drowning out the sound of their visitors' tense whispers. The fire alarm red sun peeked through the window, illuminating the faces of those who had become his allies in this fight for change. Together, they braced themselves against the fear that had haunted their progress. The unknown lingered, but determination flooded the room like a revived energy force. The figure in the doorway introduced herself as Elise, a leader of a grassroots movement against the very powers that threatened their initiative. Her presence buzzed with urgency, and Samuel found himself captivated by her fierce resolve. "You need to know what's at risk tomorrow. They've got plans that could dismantle everything you've built." "What do you mean?" Mia's voice trembled but held a note of bravery that inspired Samuel. "There are plans for a counter-rally," Elise said, passion emanating from every word. "They're going to smear your names, paint you as troublemakers, anything to discredit what you're trying to achieve. But I have information about their strategies. If you stand together, you can counteract this." Samuel stepped forward, every nerve in his body alive with purpose. "We need to expose them," he declared, "but we also need to forge our own identity. A united front." As the group worked through the details of their next move, Samuel felt the mighty swell of hope rising around him. They would not let fear define the conversation. They would promote their vision, loud and clear. The energy flowed between them, igniting the very room. "Let us make a timeline for our activities," he proposed, drawing a large calendar on the community center's whiteboard. Each date marked not just events but a reminder of community power. "Our plan is our strength." Hours passed as they worked side by side, the outlines of a campaign emerging from the clamor of voices and ideas. Samuel felt a renewed sense of purpose, like planting seeds in freshly nurtured soil. They would grow something beautiful. As the sun dipped below the horizon, they exchanged smiles, fists raised in solidarity. "We are ready," Kyle said, his voice ringing with newfound confidence. "We'll rally like we've never done before. Together." That night, they finalized their rally plan, plotted outreach tactics, and composed every word they intended to share. Each time they spoke, there was less tension and more laughter, like reconnecting pieces of a long-forgotten puzzle. Elise guided them, weaving her experience through their strategies, turning fears into strengths while the shadows outside faded into a distant memory. The following evening, the atmosphere at the community center was electric. The town square brimmed with folks of all backgrounds, inspired by their drive. Samuel felt unshakable as he stood before the crowd, a likeness of every heart that had been afraid to dream big. "Thank you all for being here," he said, his voice booming with sincerity. "You matter. Together, we are not just voices, we are a chorus of change." The energy surged through the crowd like a wild river, washing away the fear that had once seemed insurmountable. Samuel took a moment to lock eyes with Mia, her bright smile reflecting every hope he harbored. The earlier storm had birthed a movement of determination, not dismay. "I want you to remember this moment," he continued, "as a declaration of our resilience. Tomorrow, we can show the world who we are as a community. We won't let anyone suppress our dreams." Cheers erupted, their voices echoing through the night. But just as victory loomed, a familiar figure stepped into view: Kyle, with a grimace etched across his face. "They're coming!" he shouted, urgency spilling from his lips. Samuel felt the air shift, but instead of fleeing, the crowd tightened their formation, shifting from fear to protection. "Let them come!" Mia called, electricity coursing through her words. "This is our town. We will define our future." Samuel's heart soared despite the uncertainty. They would face whatever storm awaited them head-on. They had built a fire burning brighter than ever, fueled by the hope, dreams, and collective strength of all those gathered. As banners flew high, and voices united in song, Samuel felt it like an unbreakable bond. Their story wasn't just unfolding, it was flourishing, blossoming into something great. In unity, they discovered the immense power of community, the source of true transformation. The night wrapped around them like a warm blanket as they faced the approaching tide together, ready for whatever it may bring. And so, the journey continued, standing steadfast against any challenge ahead. With renewed belief, silence shattered into a roaring anthem of hope. This was just the beginning. Do not miss out anymore. You need to subscribe now to catch the next episode of this incredible journey. Leave a like to show your support and help our community grow. Comment below and let us know how you feel about this transformative moment. And share instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this incredible fight for change. Do not wait one more second to contribute to our movement. It's time to rise together.